Hey creative friends, it's Gwen. I'm back in the studio today for another scrapbooking tutorial. I'm working with She's Magic by Dear Lizzie, and I've pulled out my beautiful new Spiegelmom Scraps sequin mixes. I do have a plan and it starts with fussy cutting out some pretty florals. There is a link below if you're after some really great tips to get a professional finish. I do have a couple of elements that I want to get sorted before I start to assemble my page, including the base for the layout. I'm using this blue cardstock as the background for my page, so I am going to trim 1 centimeter off of 2 sides so that it then fits on top of the 12 by 12 pattern paper. This one I'm also going to take the center out of because I want to use that beautiful rainbow. I love creating a frame for the edge of my layouts, but I do like to save paper. So this is a technique that I use on almost every page that I make. I have also made a step-by-step tutorial for you, which I'll also link below. I'm going to secure the 2 pieces together with my ATG, and then I can get fussy cutting out some of the rainbow elements. I am going to fussy cut out a section of the rainbow here, but I haven't told you about the grand plan for the layout yet. This video is part of a collaboration I'm doing with Spiegelmom Scraps. They make the most gorgeous sequin mixes, and I want to make a giant 12 by 12 sequin shaker pocket. Now that is going to fill the entire background of the layout, so I do need to have a bit of a plan of where my main elements are going, and you'll see why in a moment. With that all mapped out, I am going to grab a sheet of 12 by 12 vellum, and I'm going to do the same that I did before with the blue cardstock. That is to trim 1 centimeter off of 2 sides, so it now sits exactly over the blue part of the background, and then the outer edge of the frame doesn't have the vellum on it. Now, vellum is quite tricky when it comes to adding adhesive because you can see through it. So you have to be quite strategic about where you're going to add glue and tape when using a vellum sheet like this one. So I'm just going to ATG down where the rainbow is going to be, and that is going to be how I'm going to attach the vellum to the background layer of the page. So here you can see I have the background layer of cardstock, and then the vellum just sits on top, and here are my sequins. They are going to end up in between the layer of vellum and that cardstock. The particular mix that I'll be using is called Dolphin Cove, and it does include some really cute dolphins, but I didn't want the dolphins to be jumping through the sky that I've created here, so I did actually hand pull those out. And you can see here as well that I've run some stitching around the entire edge of the layout, and that's what's going to hold the sequins in place. I have left just the one little section there for me to be able to pull the sequins into the pocket, and once I'm happy with how many are in there, I'll go back to my sewing machine and then seal that section off. So now the sequins are free to move within the paper layers, but they are nice and secure within the stitched frame, which is all the way around the edge of the page. With that all done, I can now go on and essentially create my layout as normal. I'm going to work elements largest to smallest, and I'm also super keen to get the position of my photo locked in place pretty early. I am going to mount it with some pattern paper from the collection. I do like to create using just one collection at a time. I just find the process much faster if I do that rather than trying to mix and match things myself. I just stick with what the designers have decided goes together. It's just one of those things that takes the complexity out of scrapbooking. It just keeps it really simple for me, and I am all about that. As you can see here, I don't formally measure anything. I simply place the photo on top of the pattern paper and see how much trimming needs to be done from there. And when I'm happy, I then lock it into position with some ATG and then go around the edge and add a stitched frame. So the frame for the photo will generally be stitched as well as the frame for the layout. If you're looking for any further details on the products that I use, from my scissors to my glue, they're all linked in the description box below. So the page is taking shape. I've got my rainbow locked into position. Oh, I didn't mention, I added some stitched lines in between the rays of the rainbow, just for some added texture and to kind of bring the feeling of the stitching through lots of elements on the page. I'm going to run the photo on the left, and then a couple of frames will go underneath there. And to be honest, it's at this point that I had a little bit of trouble trying to find the structure for the layout. It's at this point that I would generally be looking to find a position for 3 embellishment clusters that would create a visual triangle. But the problem that I think I had was that I've got a lot of big things already locked into position. Like that rainbow takes up quite a lot of space. So too do the frames and the photo. And then I didn't foresee the need to have a floral piece somewhere in the left top hand corner. And you see, I don't actually have space for that. So I do need to find a little bit of a workaround for that, and it does take a little bit of juggling. And yes, technically I don't end up with a visual triangle. My initial thought was to keep the frames and the squares running down that left hand edge, but then I wasn't really sure what to do about the other end of the rainbow. See the top part of the rainbow? It's covered by the photo, but the bottom part was sort of left hanging. Luckily, I was able to find a cut apart section that has a row of books printed on it, and my daughter's reading in the photo. She is an avid reader, a big bookworm, and I am documenting that about her for this page. So it was the perfect little piece to add to cover up the messiness of the end of the rainbow there. And I feel like that also then balances out the blocks from the frames and the photo on the page. I've now got a bit of balance left to right, but it has not solved the problem of the top left-hand corner. I am going to have to stick with something quite simple for up there, and I do end up with just a type sentiment, but it's here that I thought, well, maybe I could add some florals to the bottom left-hand corner of the photo and maybe build out this right-hand side a little bit more. So the page does end up with 4 of the fussy cut florals, which is a bit unusual. Generally speaking, I would say it's better to have uneven numbers, but you know, we're rule breakers here. It's okay. I figured the only way that I could get a floral piece on that left-hand side would be in the bottom left-hand corner of the photo. So I run with that. I try to balance that out with the flower in the top right-hand corner of the photo, and then just kind of went with the flow of the rainbow. So it is flowing from that right-hand side of the photo down to the bottom right-hand corner of the layout. My flowers and embellishments are going to follow along those same lines. I talk a lot about flowing clusters on my channel and going with the flow of the page rather than trying to fight against it. So if you'd like to learn more, be sure to subscribe. Things are getting serious because I am gluing stuff down. I'm also going to add in some more sequins at this point. I wanted to add some extra detail to the floral pieces, and I found the perfect match of the yellow in this collection in the sequin mix Maggie's Dream. So I'm just using my Nouveau Deluxe adhesive and adding a little cluster, I guess, of sequins in the center of each of the flowers. I also decided at this point that the layout needed a title, which is way too late to decide that the layout needed a title, but here I am. I did have to pull up a couple of elements. The little kitty there, she ends up leaving the page, which now that I'm looking back, I'm a bit upset about, but that was the decision made in the moment. I am using some thickers from my stash. These ones are quite old, but they are gold foiled, and that's really nice because I've got the mixes of the sequins adding some shine, And I haven't mentioned it before now, and I'm not sure how well you can see, but the flowers that I fussy cut, they actually have some silver foiling on them. So it's really just a lovely mix on all of the layers in the layout. There's a mix of shiny and sparkly and gold foily goodness. I'll be sure to leave some close-up images for you here. If you like the way that I scrapbook or the way that I chat about the way that I scrapbook, I would love it if you give this video a thumbs up. If you love sequins and are after some more scrapbooking inspiration, be sure to check out this video right here, and I'll see you all next time. Until then, bye!